This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Flying across the ocean is a giant unlike any other. A 2,500-ton aircraft carrier traveling at 500 kilometers per hour with 20 aircraft ready to deploy anywhere in the world. And you guessed it, it was Soviet. In the 1960s, a brilliant mind, that of Robert Bartini, the most eccentric Soviet aerospace engineer in the world, brought to life a concept of a ground effect-based vehicle that would have changed naval warfare forever. This is the incredible story behind the Ekranoplan aircraft carrier.
I've made a new channel where I'll be talking about wacky ideas and historical oddities in a much more faster, loose setting. This week, I'll be talking all about the idea to suck men up pipes to do the D-Day invasion. It's really quite nuts. Link down in the description.
The genesis of the Bartini A2500 Ekranoplan carrier traces back to the 1960s, when Robert Bartini envisioned a revolutionary new mode of transportation that could harness the ground effect phenomenon. The ground effect, of course, refers to the increased lift and decreased drag experienced by an aircraft when flying close to the ground or across a water surface. It's just like riding on top of a bubble. By leveraging this principle, Bartini proposed in the early 1970s an ingenious solution to the Soviet government for both the lack of aircraft carriers and their flaw of rather slow deployment throughout the world. And these would be carriers built with Ekranoplans. Unlike the other famous Soviet engineer, Rostislav Alexeyev, who based his ground effect concept around vessels with wings, Bartini was an aerospace engineer and had a different approach. He would build a smaller Ekranoplan, the VVA-14, that was designed in a way to harness the ground effect using a much larger surface area than the gigantic KM, and thus this version would fly several meters higher, allowing the pilots to operate in severe weather conditions where waves or winds wouldn't affect them. This would remove the one flaw that had plagued Ekranoplan design in the past. The VVA-14 was found to be completely controllable and stable at a height of 8 meters above the water, but could fly in perfect conditions up to a staggering 12 meters above the waves. By scaling up this simple design, Bartini was certain that both the weight and purpose of the Ekranoplan could be further modified and allow for some truly extraordinary concepts. Cracking to work, he came up with the first Ekranoplan carrier concept called the A2000, and there was even a scale model built for testing. But Bartini didn't stop there, and he proposed an even larger and heavier one for actual use. This one would be called the A2500 Ekranoplan, and it was designed to be an awe-inspiring behemoth, measuring approximately 180 meters in length and boasting a wingspan of over 120 meters. Its sheer size dwarfed some of the traditional naval vessels of its time, so you know Bartini was seriously changing the game. It would be powered by 10 jet engines that were mounted atop of its fuselage. It would be able to go up to 600 kilometers per hour, which is around 373 miles per hour, while cruising up to 20 meters above the water's surface. This cruising altitude would eliminate the restrictions of flight due to severe weather conditions and waves, and would allow the aircraft carrier to operate in oceans without limitations, meaning it had all of the advantages of a carrier without the restrictions of an Ekranoplan. The 6 engines in front would only be used for takeoff from the water to create a cushion of air which the A2500 would sit on top of during flight, while the 4 aft engines on the vertical stabilizers would actually push the aircraft forward. The fuselage was organized with several hangar decks around a central elevator that would house up to 20 fighters and other multi-role jets, along with several naval AWACS aircraft, which the Soviets were developing as well in the 1970s. Future video, anyone? Due to the high cruising speed of the aircraft itself, it would actually match the takeoff speed of the jets like the MiG-29 or the Su-27. so there would be no need for a specialized VTOL aircraft or catapult system. They would simply lift off the deck on full afterburner, having a starting speed of 300 kilometers per hour and quickly be deployed into action. That means a more safe, air quotes, launching capability than a regular aircraft carrier, with the jets already at their combat speed without any effort. The crew of this gigantic carrier was to be around 400 personnel, with 250 being the flight crew, whose quarters were on either side of the craft below the hangar level. In the forward section, or nose of this aircraft, is where the bridge and the cockpit were located, and on top of both the vertical stabilizers, approach control and main communications quarters would navigate the approaching fighters during the landing phase. So pretty much two control towers. Landing would be kinda tricky though, because the aircraft would have to match the speed of the Ekranoplan, and then some kind of locking mechanism or docking arm would have to capture the aircraft before it turned the engines off, or it would blow away in the wind. Likely this would look something like air-to-air refueling, but with extra steps, and 10 times more difficult. And there was no room for error or second approach. It sounds like fun. However, this unique combination of size, speed, and capability endowed the Ekranoplan carrier with unparalleled strategic potential, and this is exactly what the Soviets got excited about. One of the big differences between this type of Ekranoplan and the Caspian Sea Monster was its ability to fly over ocean waves, negating one of the severe drawbacks of the previous machine. This was all thanks to special engineering, aerodynamic design, and the engines. And speaking of engines, yo, hear about that game changer fluid engine from Squarespace? No, I'm not talking about some crazy new fighter jet in Europe that they've invented, but rather the fluid engine that's used for websites, and it's today's video sponsor, Squarespace. Now hold your horses, that I've got a preview of the next video right here, and it's going to be a pretty cool one, so don't miss out. The Squarespace Fluid Engine allows you to take any of their thousands of templates, or make your own, using drag and drop technology to build a completely custom website. And it's incredibly responsive. The websites can work on a mobile or on a computer without having to be redesigned. Not only does Squarespace also allow you to run entire marketing campaigns within its website system to bring more visitors, but it can also be used to run a whole online store. You just have to add products. In fact, I use the exact same thing with my own online store, foundandexplained.shop, that Squarespace I wholeheartedly recommend. So try Squarespace for free for 14 days and receive 10% off your first website and domain at www.squarespace.com/found. Every little click gives me a big warm hug inside. So thanks very much for watching. The Bartini A2500 Ekranoplan was conceptualized to serve as a high-speed aircraft carrier capable of launching and recovering fighter jets and other aircraft. Its ability to traverse vast distances at incredible speeds made it an attractive asset for the military planners, particularly during the height of the Cold War. The Soviet Union envisioned that the A2500 would be a potent weapon for projecting power across oceans, bypassing traditional naval defenses and striking targets with unprecedented swiftness. And it would balance out the power dynamic between the Soviets and the United States when it came to naval power. Moreover, the Ekranoplan's low-altitude flight profile afforded it a degree of stealth, making it less susceptible to detection by radar systems compared to conventional aircraft flying at higher altitudes. This stealth capability further enhanced its appeal as a platform for conducting covert operations and surprise attacks. Sounds pretty fantastic, right? So why didn't they build it? Despite its groundbreaking design and potential strategic advantages, the Bartini A2500 Ekranoplan faced numerous challenges and limitations. One of the most significant obstacles was the sheer size and complexity of the platform, which presented logistical challenges in terms of construction, maintenance, and deployment. Its massive dimensions required specialized infrastructure for docking, refueling, and servicing. It limited the number of suitable operating locations to seas or nearby Soviet ports, and furthermore, the advanced technology and materials required for its construction were expensive and difficult to procure, especially with the constraints of the Soviet economy in the 1970s. Plus, we have to talk about the 1970s in terms of technology. Even with today's technology, this type of ambitious design may not even be feasible. And even if it was built, the vulnerability of such a large, expensive platform was a huge problem. None of the conventional ships could keep up with this vessel and protect it, and it would have to rely on aircraft during wartime to be its escorts. And while this plan might work to some extent against enemy aircraft, or if it was deployed near the Soviet coastline so it could retreat into a safe harbor, if it went to war and had to operate off the coast of the United States, there was no real defense against an anti-ship or even anti-aircraft missiles. That's right, because it was both a ship and an aircraft, it could be shot down by both. And with only 1 or 2 hits knocking this down, along with its crew and aircraft inside of the hangars, you could imagine all that money going down the drain. Mounting different AA systems, whether short or long range, would require radars, silos for the missiles, and further crew to operate the weaponry. The question of fuel was also important. All the giants like ballistic missiles, submarines, or aircraft carriers are powered by a nuclear reactor, and for a good reason. A nuclear reactor can provide power for a long period of time without the need to refuel or even stop at all. Which, in the case of the Cold War, when vessels need to go almost forever, this is very important. Fragile aircraft carriers that need to dock every few days to refuel are easy targets, and the logistics behind them are pretty much impossible. Of course, there is the nuclear option as well, with both the Soviets and the Americans playing around with the idea of a nuclear-powered aircraft, but soon found out how impractical a flying Chernobyl is. However, the main issue with a nuclear-powered aircraft, especially in the case with the Ekranoplan carrier, was always the weight of its protective shielding needed for the reactor itself. But the weight wasn't really an issue with these mega Ekranoplans because of the ground effect. So maybe nuclear power would have solved a lot of its problems. But it wasn't bureaucracy, technology, or the changing face of the Cold War that ended this project. It was that, unfortunately, Bartini himself passed away in 1974. And as the Soviet Union lost probably its most eccentric aerospace engineer and aircraft designer, his dreams of the Ekranoplan giants followed with him. Alexeyev further developed his concepts, with the most successful being the A-90 and of course the legendary Russian Ekranoplan, whilst the Bartini VVA-14 program would be shut down in 1987. Although the A2500 Ekranoplan never entered mass production or saw active service, its legacy endures as a symbol of ambitious engineering innovation and daring experimentation. The project pushed the boundaries of conventional thinking in both aerodynamics and naval warfare, inspiring subsequent generations of engineers and designers to explore unconventional concepts and technologies. There was even a proposed concept for an Ekranoplan space carrier, which we covered on the channel, which was based off the A2500 design. So I recommend you go check that out because it's really incredible. Moreover, the principles underlying the Ekranoplan's design continued to inform ongoing research and development efforts in the fields of ground effect vehicles and maritime aviation. Modern iterations of Ekranoplans and similar vehicles are being explored for various applications, including cargo transport, search and rescue operations, and coastal defense. The Ekranoplan carrier remains a symbol of the Soviet ambition and its innovation during the Cold War. Its unique design and strategic potential continue to fascinate aviation enthusiasts and military historians alike, just like me and you, serving as a reminder of the boundless possibilities that emerge at the intersection of technology and imagination. So thanks so much for watching this video today, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hey, don't forget to go check out the new channel. Go check it out. The link is down in the description.